Welcome to the Iowa Speedway.
Man, can we please get a cup race at Iowa?
For the first time, we can.
Short track racing, you can't beat it.
With racing in ARCA, Xfinity, and Cup, Iowa's here to make history.
This is not just another race.
Do our job, we'll come out on top.
Is this heaven? No, this is Iowa.
Love this place, driver's racetrack, and we have one of the best.
Who is ready for an inaugural weekend?
This is Iowa Speedway.
Welcome to Around the Track. I'm Kim Coon alongside Ryan Flores. And before we get you ready for everything Iowa Speedway, Sonoma, you guys had a solid weekend.
Yeah, solid day. P7 finish. We had stage points. That's what we need right now as we're getting down to the wire, the playoff cutoff. But the one guy that is continuing to add to his playoff points was SVG on Saturday.
Yeah, back-to-back Xfinity Series wins after he took home the hardware in Portland, then gets it done in Sonoma. Interested to see what he can do this weekend now that we're back on an oval.
Absolutely, and Kyle Larson, that 5 team executed at such a high level. He drove the wheels off that car, so a well-earned victory for that 5 bunch.
All right, so let's get you ready for everything, whether you're headed to the cornfields of Iowa or you're going to be watching the racing action from home.
Yeah, as we take a look, the ARCA cars, Xfinity, and the Cup Series will all be in action this weekend in Iowa. First and foremost, the ARCA race gets kicked off. What are you looking forward to there?
Yeah, this is going to be a big race for what's a combined ARCA Menard Series and ARCA East Series. And I've got my eye on Andreas Perez. He's the ARCA Menards Point Series leader, but we talked about it last week. Last week he ran Aguas Calientes, the Mexico Series race, which he won. But the thing is, that track is so similar to Iowa that he maybe has a jump start on the rest of the field. So I think he's going to be a guy to keep an eye on in terms of the ARCA cars.
Absolutely. He's been fast in everything he's been in this year, so he's been really fun to watch. Another 2 guys that are going to be really fun to watch is Corey Heim back in that Sam Hunt car in the Xfinity Series, and Ross Chastain is going to be dipping his toes back in the Xfinity water in that DGM number 92. So going to be an action-packed weekend for sure.
Yeah, not just at Iowa, around the country. So let's take a look at some of the other racing action happening this week and this weekend. Well, already started. Every Tuesday through July, you have the Charlotte Summer Shootout, and that's a great place to pick your next favorite driver. You think about Cup Series champions that have cut their teeth out there: Chase Elliott, Joey Logano. Yeah,
and you got Bubba Wallace running there all year this year. I've got a summer shootout victory to my credit as well in a legend car, so a lot of good times there at the summer shootout. Made it all that's where I met Corey LaJoy, my Stacking Pennies co-host. And then you look at Dominion Raceway, another great facility up there in Virginia. They'll be having late model stock races. That track is always action-packed. And as always, there's a full slate of racing on Flow if you log on to your Flow app and check everything out.
And all that racing action culminates in the Cup Series inaugural race at Iowa Speedway Sunday night. But let's take a look back at the last time a NASCAR National Series was at Iowa Speedway. 2019, here are your Xfinity Series winners in the Hawkeye State.
Christopher Bell is a short track ace. His 4th win of 2019 is going to come at Iowa Speedway. Chase Briscoe down to the inside, pulls along the side of the 20 car. At the line, it's going to be Briscoe leading that lap. Can he hold the lead going into the corner? Lap traffic ahead, Briscoe slides up. Chase Briscoe is going to flex his muscle and win at the Iowa Speedway.
As we look at the Cup Series schedule for this weekend, talking about practice, 50 minutes on Friday. What are these teams going to have to do to their cars to get right?
Well, they're going to have to figure out the racetrack. There's been a partial repave to Iowa Speedway. So again, the National Series has not been to Iowa Speedway in 5 years. So yes, there are a lot of drivers that have experienced Iowa in truck, Xfinity, ARCA. But this track is going to look a little bit different. So in turns 2 and 4, the entry and exits have been repaved. And so I think their notebooks need to fill up with how different is this track going to race with that new pavement.
Yeah, and this race, their practice starts at 5:30, but the race starts at 6 o'clock, so they're only going to get 50 minutes. So to look at the progression of this race, going to go is 350 laps around the 7/8 mile, and you're going to go from 90-something degrees when the sun's out to maybe 70 when the sun goes down, so you're going to have to adjust on your car all night. You're going to have to earn this one.
Yes, and qualifying, we talk about it every week, going to be very important, especially if we have less lane options because of that repave. It's going to be a track position race, so we'll put an emphasis on qualifying this weekend as well. Top of the list, though, I think this is introducing the Cup Series to a new part of the country. This has been something that the fans and the drivers have clamored for years.
Iowa's great. They do a great job. Incredible concerts and fan zone and everything about Iowa. It's a lot of fun to go to. That place has always had a special place in my heart. Truck racing there, Xfinity racing, the fans always came out. So I'm not surprised any bit that the place is sold out. I expected that just because they put on such a fun weekend for the fans and such a great experience.
Kim, as we mentioned, this is the first time the Cup cars are going to Iowa. I've won there before myself with an Xfinity car, and I've been there and been part of the races, but it's going to be much different this time with that partial repave. The first 3 lanes off the bottom are repaved in the corners.
Yeah, and you used to be able to move around a lot, but the track was really rough. And so with this repave, my guess is that the drivers are going to be on those patches. They're going to be a lot grippier. Do you think they're going to end up migrating and want to use those patches more than maybe the older surface?
It sounds, usually they do, but we've seen as the patches get rubbered in and they start building rubber, then that rubber becomes greasy and you have to kind of get out of it. So all it takes is like one guy like Tyler Reddick to go run the fence and be faster than everybody one time, then everybody will be up there. So it'll be interesting. We've also seen like this past weekend in Sonoma with a repave, it makes the action a little bit more intense because the guys are driving the cars so much harder. So
speeds faster.
Yep, and I look for an action-packed race in Iowa this weekend. The other place where action is going to be hot and heavy is where I make a living, down on Pit Road.
Pit Road, what's Pit Road like at Iowa?
It's much like Richmond. The only thing that's different, the last 8 or so pit stalls are on a curve at Iowa, just like they would be at Martinsville. So it makes it a little bit tricky down there if you're in the first pit stall. Good amount of openings, and there's a lot of room, so there's going to be some fast speeds. The short track setups make it a little bit more challenging to pit the cars with the camber and how low they run the cars, but you're going to have to earn it here Sunday night.
Yeah, I think actually a partial repave might be more challenging than if they had repaved the entire track surface.
Absolutely. It's going to be tough on everybody.
All right, after the break, we're catching up with Erica to get her best bets for the weekend at Iowa.
Join Todd Gordon and myself each week for NASCAR Inside the Race. We'll break down exactly how the race was won.
Plus, we'll dive into the data and go in depth on race strategies, penalties, and rule changes.
Catch NASCAR Inside the Race presented by Consumer Cellular each Tuesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
It's now time for Easy Money with E, that E being Erica, our resident sports betting analyst. So Erica, we have wrapped up our wine country racing. We're headed to the cornfields of Iowa. Before we get into the best bets of the weekend, how are you feeling after Sonoma?
I feel pretty good, Kim. As the kids would say, it was kind of mid, but we had some of our best bets to hit. We had Michael McDowell to finish in the head-to-head over AJ. We also had Chevy as a winning manufacturer for my bonus bets toward the end of the week. And then if you took out the parlay and just made straight bets, as I always advise people to do if they want, then you had C. Busher to finish in the top 10 as well. So it's all about continuing to build on our momentum from Sonoma.
Love it, and hopefully we have some good momentum after Iowa Speedway. I sound like a broken record, but this is the first time the Cup Series will race at Iowa Speedway, and with that, I'm curious, how are the books setting the odds when the Cup Series hasn't raced at a track before? Are they looking at past performance by each driver and maybe a lower series at that track?
Yeah, I think that odds makers are definitely considering in some capacity how drivers have done it in Xfinity and how they've performed at Truck Series. But honestly, Kim, I think the biggest betting trend that odds makers are leaning into is how they have driven at short tracks in general. So for our picks this week, it's all about how drivers have done at short tracks, and that's what I want to lean into.
Okay, let's dive into those race picks, starting with winning manufacturer. What have you learned, I guess, from some of the short track racing we've seen this season, and how is that going to influence your pick?
Well, my first pick is going to be Chevy winning manufacturer at plus 240. And that's honestly, I love those odds. I'm going there because of the odds. So right now, Toyota is plus 120. Even Ford has shorter odds at plus 225. So you can look back and say, okay, yes, Hendrick has won four short track races in the next gen car. So that's one reason to lean into Chevy at plus 240. However, first caution, Kim. JGR with the past 8 or 9 races has performed really impressively at short track. So if you want to go there and do Toyota, I wouldn't be mad at it, but I'm going to go with greed and go with the longer odds at plus 240 and then kind of like egg on Byron and Larson to end up getting into victory lane.
Okay, so winning manufacturer Chevrolet, does that mean maybe your top 5 pick is going to be a Chevy driver?
You know me so well. I'm going with Kyle Larson as a top 5 finisher at plus 130. I mean, he's given us so many reasons to back him in this spot. Mainly, if you look at his past 10 short track races, he's finished no worse than 6th in the last 9 of those. So definitely want to back him here, but I do want to also say, make sure you shop around because I did see Kyle Larson top 3 finisher odds at plus 215. So I wouldn't be mad if you went that way either, but I'm going to go first and foremost, plus 130, top 5 finisher. I might sprinkle a little bit on him at 215 as a top 3 finisher too.
Okay, let's expand it a little bit though and look broader. Let's look top 10 for this weekend.
All honesty, cannot lie, I really wanted to lean into Seabell at minus 400, but those odds are so juiced, and I just couldn't do that to myself or to you guys. So the better value is going Brad Keselowski at minus 160 to be a top 10 finisher. Kim, Brad Keselowski has already tested this track this year. He's one of 3 drivers to get some time on the track earlier this spring. So, and he's got 3 wins in Xfinity. So that counts for something. He's got some experience at Iowa, albeit not in Cup Series. So minus 160, Brad Keselowski. Yay or nay, disagree or agree with me, Kim?
I feel good about that pick. He was actually one of the drivers I was considering for my fantasy lineup. You mentioned some of those stats, including 3 wins in the Xfinity Series. I think he's going to have a strong weekend. All right, though, as we talk strong weekend, what about outright winners?
Outright winners odds, my favorite, sarcasm inserted there, my favorite market, but we're going to go Denny Hamlin. We're going to also go William Byron and C. Busher as the outright winners odds that I'm looking at. Denny Hamlin at plus 800, the devil that you know. Yeah, I know, he had that blown up engine last week. Let's act like that didn't happen. But
too soon.
Right. Too soon. Well, hey, Denny Hamlin, I needed you not to do that. But I'm going to back you again in this spot anyway. He's great at short tracks, and plus 800. I feel confident that he could be one of the drivers running up front toward the end. And then let's move on to William Byron at plus 1,000. A $10 bet would win you a total of $100. He's consistent. Byron's got a win here in Truck Series. He's got a win here in Xfinity Series. So plus 1,000 right there is a great spot for Byron. And then my absolute favorite of my outright winners this week is a Busher at plus 2,000. Kim, if Busher ends up getting into victory lane at plus 2,000 and a $10 bet wins us a total of $200, please know I'm going to be right.
Cha-ching.
Racing to the bank on a Sunday. Cash me out now. He's got 7 top 10s on the season. He had a great finish last week at Sonoma, so he's got some momentum, and we always talk about momentum here. So he's the one who's got it. So back him in that spot as well.
Okay, well, now that we've got your picks, let's talk about timing of those picks, because this is a new track for the Cup Series. They have 50 minutes of practice. So what are the positives and negatives about maybe waiting until the end of the week to place your bets?
Yeah, the benefit is that you will have a better idea of how each driver is going to handle the track, since we've never run a Cup Series race here. But the disadvantage is that the most favorable or the more favorable odds will likely change in a less than favorable direction once we see how they run. So if you want to be a little less risky this week and wait till after the Friday practice or wait till after the Saturday qualifying, you can do that. But I'm going to go ahead and throw some bucks beforehand because I'm pretty confident in my picks this week.
All right, Erica, thank you so much for the insight, and don't forget to look out for her bonus bets later in the week. We will see you next week in studio. We're so excited to get your preview for New Hampshire. And as we're talking Iowa Speedway this weekend, there are a number of drivers that hail from the Hawkeye State, including some Hall of Famers. Take a look.
Every race is a test. The cars are only machines. They are powered with racing fuel, but fueled by the willpower of those who strive to win.
Tiny, good luck and keep it straight.
Not everybody can win a race if it's good or not.
What makes a driver great is what did he accomplish?
Guthrie became the first woman to compete in a NASCAR Superspeedway race.
Here he comes, under the checkered flag.
Tiny Lund, formerly of Highland, Iowa.
NASCAR is America's motorsport. Its story is written by people. People who devoted their lives to the race we love. People who became our heroes.
As we look at some of the iconic drivers from Iowa, Janet Guthrie, Johnny Beauchamp, and 1963 Daytona 500 champion Tiny Lund. Some big names.
Yeah, Janet Guthrie, one of the more recent drivers to be honored by the Hall of Fame. Johnny Beauchamp, though, was in the 3-wide finish in the first Daytona 500, so definitely some history there. But some younger drivers from Iowa as well. You think about Landon Castle hailing from Iowa, Michael Annett, Sammy Smith, who will be in the Xfinity Series field on Saturday.
Yeah, and hey, we just did a great story with the GOAT of Pit Road, Mike Trower, a Rainbow Warrior. You can go check that out on NASCAR's YouTube page.
He's also from Iowa?
Also an Iowa native, so a lot of good racers coming from those dirt tracks in Iowa. One Iowa native that's looking for his 4th trip to victory lane at the racetrack is Brett Moffitt.
The Iowa native grew up about 40 miles from here. Moffitt, Gregson, and Burton all within a half second of one another for the win. Coming to the white flag, Brett Moffitt has one more circuit to hold off Noah Gregson. Gregson dives down for the lead, tries to pass into the wall. It's not going to work, and Moffitt has done it in front of the hometown fans.
You just won in your hometown, baby. Unbelievable, guys. Thank you.
Brett Moffitt hailing from Grimes, Iowa. Very successful at that home track for him. 2 Truck Series wins. He's got an ARCA win there, too.
Yeah, Brett Moffitt's super fast in any car he gets into. And this 19 Joe Gibbs Xfinity car is looking for some redemption after last week in Sonoma. So I'd be looking for him to claim his 4th win at this home racetrack.
Yeah, looking for his first Xfinity Series win, though. The last time we saw him in an Xfinity Series car was the finale last year at Phoenix.
Yeah, he'll definitely be fast. And I'm excited to get out to Iowa and see everything that it has to offer. Up next, we will tell you about everything going on at Iowa Speedway.
Hey guys, I'm Corey the Joy Driver, the number 7 car, joined by my buddy Ryan Flores. Every week we stack some pennies. Talk about NASCAR Cup Series right out of my windshield.
Plus, we'll give out the dogs of the week for the best pit crews and pit crew guys from the weekend. We'll break down all the money stops, all the woes, get into some technical issues, and we'll also answer all of your hashtag Penny for Your Thoughts questions.
And we have a ton of guests. Sometimes SVG pops by, we got Raja, we have all sorts of guys. You never know who's going to pop in the Nonsense Garage, but make sure you tune in SiriusXM on Tuesdays, YouTube on Wednesdays, wherever you find your podcast on Wednesdays as well. Come stack pennies with us.
So the fans have wanted a Cup race at Iowa for years and years and years, and the good thing is not only will they get to see Cup racing at Iowa, there's a ton to do if you're a race fan out at the Speedway.
Oh yeah, there'll be driver appearances all weekend in the fan walk experience, and hey, Stacking Pennies Live. I won't be there, but Corey will be joined by a NASCAR Hall of Famer.
Okay, I was at the Stacking Pennies recording this week. I have to say it is great to be in the audience, so encourage all the fans to get out there and check it out live.
Yeah, we had a great one with SVG this past weekend, and if you're going to Iowa Speedway, you can go to iowaspeedway.com and see a full list of the things that Iowa has to offer.
And next up, we're going to give you our fantasy picks for the Cup race at Iowa.
So who is your best value pick for your fantasy league?
I've got my guy.
Yeah, we took a gamble this weekend.
Luck or the lack thereof. It's a big factor here today.
Listen to me out there, gamblers.
Intrigue, baby.
All right, Kim, the much anticipated first Cup race at Iowa. Who is your must-have this weekend?
This is one of the harder fantasies to do, A, because the Cup Series hasn't raced at Iowa, but then B, because so many drivers in the Cup Series have raced there in other series, and so I kind of used that data as part of the reason why I picked my must-have, and that'd be Christopher Bell. He is so dominant at Iowa, has 2 Xfinity Series wins there, but then he also did the tire test. So I think that information is going to help him this weekend.
Yeah, it can't hurt for sure, but this is easy. Who wins the first time we go to a new place?
I know who you're going to pick.
Joey Logano. He was fast this past weekend with a fresh repave at Sonoma. He won at Wilkesboro with a repave. He won at St. Louis last year, so hey, every time, and Paul Wolf gets 50 minutes to tune on his car and figure it out. This Penske bunch is going to be hard to beat.
You're convincing me that I might need to change my pick.
Yeah, they're going to be hard to beat, but who's your garage pick?
Garage pick, I went with kind of similar thinking, Chris Buescher. So I picked 2 Christophers as my fantasy picks this weekend. He's won an Xfinity race there, and then if you look at his short track record in the next gen car, he's won 2 of the last 10 short track races. His teammate, Brad Keselowski, did the tire test there. Brad's also a 3-time winner, so I feel like between Chris's knowledge and then kind of picking the brain of his team owner and teammate, Brad Keselowski, he's a solid one to have in your garage and switch in if you need to throughout the race.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski's going to be in my lineup this weekend, but another guy who has the same amount of wins there, 3, that's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So I'm going to take a flyer on him because of his Xfinity success at the racetrack and put him in my garage because I don't know how he's going to run, but I want him as an option in case he has a career day.
That's a great point.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, as we go to Iowa Speedway, if you didn't know, it was designed by a NASCAR Hall of Famer.
Yep, that's Rusty Wallace. He has his hands all over designing this racetrack, much like Richmond Raceway.
And so it was designed in 2004, completed in 2006. Rusty will actually be there this weekend, and so it'll be interesting maybe to pick his brain on why he chose the things he did in terms of designing the racetrack.
Yes. So if you don't like the racing at Iowa this weekend, go find Rusty or send him a tweet and let him know.
Yeah, tell Rusty what you think of the racing at Iowa Speedway. That's going to be it for this week's Around the Track.
Yeah, next week, one of my favorite races of the whole year, New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
You got to say it like New Hampshire.
I don't want to fake it. I just want to hold the lobster at the end of the day. I've done it before, and I'm excited to get out there and do it again.
But we'll preview everything New Hampshire next week on Around the Track.